speaker, who is Vinay. Vinay was part of previous Scrum Bangalore, I think, before I started doing Scrum Bangalore. So this was the first time I'm meeting him at Scrum Bangalore. And he's going to talk about behavior-driven development. I'm wondering how many of us know or seen some code that behavior-driven development? Okay, so that sets the stage for you. Take over, please.
Am I audible now? Okay. So first of all, thanks Deepak and even Jayapaka JP, because you have made my whole presentation very easy and have set the context. So just before my session, we have done some exercise again. So we have seen that what was there. Somebody was talking about lots of assumptions we have made. We try to get simple things complex, right? And again, where we are going to add lots of new changes, we form right? And that's the thought came in 2005 when Dan North actually was brainstorming on this issue of development and just make it as much better what we have at that point of time or initial, right? So we will talk about a little bit on behavior-driven development, right? If you look at the title of this session, it's only an effective way to collaborate among three amigos, and we will just look at who are those three amigos. And if you look at the last line, what is that? Yes, testing is just on the intention of this behavior-driven development, because it talks about what? Development, not the testing. Okay?
You could use the clicker.
Who is this guy? Customer PO, who is that guy? Yes, can you look at customer? Who is this guy? Sales developer. Okay. It can be around your PO, your PS, right? And what are they doing? Okay. Yeah. Right? Who is this guy?
Tester.
What are they doing at that moment? Quality assurance. Nothing is there so far. Yes. What they are doing, they are writing this black box. And who are they? Developers. If you look at, each one is having their own perspective, right? Customer is talking about something else. Whatever they have on their own domain knowledge and experience, the PAs are trying to specify this in terms of the document. The testers and developers are there doing their best job, right? So wanted, developed, specified and tested. What is there? Is there any conflict, misunderstanding? Are we finding anywhere, anytime? It's very rare, right? Okay. What happens at the end? Who is this guy? No problem. But what is this? Right? Then we started with okay, fail fast. Go with the iterative mode. Incremental, iterative, incremental. So you got sprint 1, sprint 2, and sprint 3. You will never get the sprint 2 kind of what we have done in the game. Go one sprint only for removing waste. You will not get. Believe me, actually you will not get. You will get directly sprint 1 and sprint 3. You have to find out sprint in between. Right? And you have to struggle a lot for that. So why it happens? So the weakness being unable to define the desired outcomes is not only the problem of developers or the business. What the business might be there. Right? Ambiguity will be there from the developers and business, which is adding those. And adding what? Making the gap wider and wider. And business always looks the entire thing from the business perspective. They are not looking from the developers or business perspective. And that's also a gap. Right? And that's the real view we are finding at the end. Who is highly affected? Or developers? Right? So 3 roles. You can say PO or the PS. From the development side I'm talking about. I'm not talking about from the customer side. Right? 3 roles. 3 steps. What are those steps? Writing specification, writing code, and writing your test plan cases. And what normally they do? They have 3 different life cycles, 3 different versions. So you have function specification, right? What it has? Version .o.something. Testers, test plan, test cases. There are also some versions will be there. And source code. Implemented versions. Yeah. Okay. Is there any sync between these versions? Not here, right? So what happens? We are maintaining all the things. At the end we are finding, oh, it's no. Then what we will do? We start fixing. What are those red areas? What we are doing there? For fixing. So developer is sitting there, tester comes and he says, hey, it's a bug. But what developer says? Yeah, first somebody else has told something else. Yes. It's working in my machine. That's okay. That's fine. Right? It's working in my machine, not my machine. Right? Even though once he will clarify no boss, it's actually defect. What he said? It's not a defect, it's a feature.
Before that we should say another one. It's not there in the design document.
Yeah, definitely. So they will just say that okay, we are referring that 2.0 not that version of the specification. They will say no, we are referring that 3 point something that specification. Yeah, something like that. Is it bug? It's feature. I have to get. So feature. Right? Both can live together, right? Okay. Can you do quickly? If this is a requirement, there are 12 points to start. Can you do that? You know start?
Yeah.
Can we draw that? Whoever has done can raise their hand. Okay, good. Anyone else? Well, yeah. Okay. Anyone else? you are still juggling into how to draw that. Yeah. Have you thought about drawing a star? Simple star. Whatever you be able to draw and putting 12 points. Come on. I never told that you have to draw that 12 points. Right? And you never asked also. Have you asked? Did you ask? No. Why? Did I tell that I will not answer your question? The customer was here. Or maybe you or he was here. He asked me. You started. That's how the developers are. Right? You get all the opportunity, you will open all the type of communication, sprint planning, catalog tooling, everything. Find that. Art is important. Why? Because? Why? Any idea? Assumptions. Yes. We assume that we understood. And we have all the assumptions. And at the end, what we said? We assume it should be in this way. That's why we
We assume the customer will use it in this way. That puts you in fix.
Yeah. So how do we check? There is a misunderstanding at all levels. Lack of effective communication. Even though if you will ask a developer to interact with the VAs, how can they interact? Okay. You use Windows OS, right? You are getting some system error messages. Are you able to understand those messages? Yes, sir. That feeling is either yes or no. Who will decipher those messages written by developers? Not understandable by the end users. Right? So if you ask a developer to interact with the VAs, how did they interact? They will say, okay, there is a database and then I will select a table and then I will create this component will talk to this particular service and VA will not be able to understand it at the end. When you will ask VAs to interact, how will you interact? Same. Right? Then we will start saying that, okay, you should have a domain knowledge. Maybe we will look at the developers. Sometimes JD you will say that banking domain references. Right? And you will say that, okay, I am domain expert in this. Right? And we are proud of it. But again, if you are changing domain then, how do you do? So, look at it. This is right. Imagine we have given a task to add and include VAT and delivery cost. Right? VAT is there, delivery cost is in the total price of the customer's basket, say e-commerce site. Right? And VAT is 20%, delivery cost for a small basket is this much, this much. Is it complete? You look at a very high level. You will find that yes, looks like everything is explained properly. Nothing is missing. Yeah.
So it's large basket option, says small, medium.
Yeah. So questions, that's correct. You should ask that. Yeah.
What about taxes and any other things which we need to include, exclude?
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
That is for single item or all the items in the basket?
Right.
One question, why?
Is that for everyone? Cost of smaller packs.
Now she is raising this. Right? So even though the data and all those things are there, right, it looks complete, but still we have lots of questions. And those questions generally as developer comes in our mind when we start writing them. Right? Okay, we will come back to this again. So my whole idea was to understand there are two perspectives of the same requirement. One is from the BS, one is from the developers, one is from the business. Right? Next time we say that what will happen if in the basket no items are there. Right? That time also it will calculate 50% or what it will do. Right? Or add the understanding. Share the understanding by discussing examples. That example is very, very important. Right? Earlier also we were doing that. We were doing the same thing. We were saying that if you look at, go back here, you'll find that some examples are there, some figures are here. Right? But what is the difference? So it's focused on exploring the unknown. Right? What is exploring the unknown? If you are new to this city and you have to go to it from here, some internet, from this place, right? You will try to start exploring with your friends. And this place, maybe now you can use that Google, but earlier we were keep talking, and even still we keep talking with the friends, try to find out which way it's sort of, which way it will be, what I can do in the internet if I'm going there, which are those areas where I can go, all those things, right? Actually, what you're trying to do, you're trying to explore them, explore the unknown, right? Sharing and understanding of examples. So always they will give you some examples. Okay, if you go to that particular market, if you go to this particular shop, you will get this much discount and all so on. Right? In the last line, have you heard it or read this before? Great. Yeah. All great person here, right? Okay, fine. Good. So what it says, individual and interactions over processes and tools. So that's what when JP was talking about, and we were talking about EDD also. So somebody was discussing that if we are using an unit, J unit and EX unit, it does not mean that I'm using EDD. Right? Those are just the process and tools. Yes, of course, EDD you cannot achieve without those tools. You need those tools. But yes, first approach you can use without any tools. That is possible. Right? So that's why just believe this thing and just remember this one. So describe what business want the system to do by talking through example user. I'm keep talking about this. How we will do that and we will look at what is the outside implement those behaviors. If you look at these are the three episodes. And who are those?
Developer and testers.
POPS, developers and testers. Right? Okay. So what was missing here? Missing was a common language. Which language actually they will talk and they will be able to understand. So that language they have come up with where they are using these keywords given, when, there. Right? And that language is called as working language. Right? And you have some syntax. So we will go through with that as well. So what it says, for each user story you can have the features. Within each feature you can have multiple scenarios. These scenarios we have these keywords used, given, when, then. Right? And those things will be just in the form of example. So let's look at the feature. The feature will, as I told you, will contain lots of scenarios. Okay. And scenario will have all these steps. So given when we are using this keyword, actually it's a free state, the system's free state. So give us this part here. Right? Or even there are no users on site. Or even the database is free. Right? Given that the login is free. Whatever makes sense for that scenario to form that free state. If you are from that PDD background, you can just imagine that 3A's. Right? Have you heard about 3A? Right? Arrange, act, and assert. Right? See, here, even is nothing but you are trying to make that a free state that you are arranging that. When is nothing but your act, and then is nothing but your assert. Right? So when actually you are actually going to interact with something, actual action is getting performed here. So when I register, when I submitted these values, whatever. And then it will give you the probable outcomes. And if you have several given, you can have given, and given. Can be. Similarly, you can have when. You can have then. It's possible. You can have multiple given, multiple when, multiple. You can have multiple given when, then. Right? But it's not more readable if you have in that case. To make it more readable, we can use these keywords and. Given this, you can have multiple. Similarly, you can use with the when and then.
Can you please go back to when and then? Because these are the examples that you should give during defining when it is there, or when what has to happen.
Yes, it's a given user is logged in, right? When he enters this value, then he gets this.
If we see in terms of user story, it is like acceptance criteria, like am I right to like,
Yeah, what you are saying, that is yes, look like acceptance test criteria.
Usually in some acceptance criteria, they would have given, when I go with this should happen, and this should happen, and this should. If you do all these three, my story is done. That's how we specify it.
Yeah.
But it could even elaborate it to derive many given scenarios by discussing.
An acceptance test is just to accept that the system talks more on the behavior.
And also,
then is the like result of it, and then this has to be result.
so what happens is
Are you okay?
you are different.
So the next slide.
Yeah. So then we give you the outcome. What it should happen. So 3 state give us. Then we have put that action. Lastly, what we have. Or how the system will behave.
So alternatively, feature driven development. Alternatively, feature driven development.
Alternatively, your feature driven.
So what you could probably relate is, even if it's FPD or or acceptance criteria, we usually talk about a positive scenario, right? Acceptance criteria, you're talking about this should happen, this should happen. Now what if this happens during this? What if? You mentioned that what if, right? So those are all various possible scenarios that can happen, and how should the system behave? So BDD is more of an elaborated scenario discussion compared to FPD and user stories.
And more focused on behavior. What if this will be the case? What if this will be the case? Then what the system's behavior? It's a way to write those in that manner. There are lots of ways you can pass the data, state data, right? I'm not going into that deep level at this moment because I don't know that entire audience is that. Just look at this example. Suppose we have a feature which talks about withdraw money from ATM. Now withdraw money from ATM could have lots of scenarios. One of scenarios which I have taken here, account has sufficient money. Then if somebody is trying to withdraw money, how that system should behave. So how it has been written, given card is valid. Now you can say that we can, here also we can put given card number in this and card has been, when we can enter this, card was valid, then we went to that next step. But idea of this scenario is not to test that particular point, not to find out that behavior of whether card was valid or not. So idea of this one is only just look at withdraw money from ATM when the account is sufficient. Card valid behavior is part of different scenarios. Right? That's why given card is valid. And account has this much rupees balance. When customer enter with this, then customer should get rupees this much. Account should be deducted by this much. Revenue value should be this much. And system should return the part. This should be right. Just look at this. If you have any question, you can ask. So Yes.
Should the receipt be?
Oh, that is another thing that you can put here. No, that's fine. The entire scenario will be actually discussed by the PAs, testers and developers. And they will fine tune these scenarios. PAs will be writing these scenarios and developers will be also providing their thoughts on that, and they will fine tune this. And this is kind of requirement for them. It's a live document. There is no function specification document version 1 or 2 and something else. This is a live document being used by all. There is no way there is a communication gap that they were referring something else and now it become bug or feature. Right? Because everybody is referring same language, no confusion. Yeah.
What is the time when are we going to do this? Because the scenario is right, but there should be certain amount of time, it should be time box, right? That even if he enters, it puts 1,000, how much time it takes to return the charge.
Okay. Those things you can discuss with the PA and find in those scenarios. Yeah, of course. If it makes a valid thing from the business perspective and the developer support, then you just add those things. And that's the reason we need all three amigos here for that. Yeah.
So usually going by like when they get additional scenarios like this, sometimes developers map them to their unit test case scenarios, right? So usually if you're a developer, you map it to a lot of unit test case scenarios. If you're a regular tester, you might probably combine a few given and then and write an integration test. So there's a lot of mapping, but nevertheless all of you are speaking the same language.
Still collaboration.
Yeah, that's bringing the clarity.
Yeah. Okay. And suppose something is related to what you're talking about performance and something else, maybe you can make it more sense to write another scenarios for those covering those points. And in the way you can just tag those and group those scenarios together. Like that.
So best time for
we can do that. No, it's for the legacy also. Recently, in one of the banks we have done, where they have a 10 years legacy. And they have, some investment is required. It's not like you are going to do it some only for the new future or the top fixes. If you want to make it as complete BDD line, then you do some investment which they were agreed upon. And the entire module has to be converted in that.
This is quite similar to the use cases that we come up with.
Again, the use case, if you look at it, looks like more engineering practice, where more technical things are involved. But if you look at it here, and even the CAs are not so comfortable here. But if you look at this, it looks more comfortable for anyone, any layman person. Because they need not to understand and learn those engineering things. Like you need to understand what the thing is trying to do, and that they have lots of other things. When you are trying to create those use cases. Okay. Can you just think about one more scenario for this feature?
The user, customer tries to withdraw 11,000.
Yeah, so what is the scenario?
There is, if the card is valid, the account has 10,000 rupees balance. Customer tries to withdraw 11,000.
Okay. You are describing scenario. I am just talking about what is scenario.
Account has insufficient funds.
Insufficient fund. Where it is account. Account has insufficient fund. Yes, of course. We can have. So only thing is here we have to include some lesser amount and here we have to increase and finally yes, of course that we can do. One more.
Valid pin. The validity of the pin.
Validity of pin, yeah. But that is related to your withdraw money from ATM. Okay, anyway.
ATM dispenser has insufficient funds.
ATM dispenser has insufficient funds. Yes, that's correct. Anything else?
User is trying to withdraw more than the daily limit.
That's correct.
And if it takes only 500 rupees notes, it's not taking hundreds.
Yeah, right. That's what. Yeah.
User is accepted at credit card.
Records value.
Yeah.
So if you look at in the summary, still there are some. So BDD is just a working together to find better solutions. Right? Use real world examples with the theory and understanding of the domain. Okay. One is somebody were talking about real world. Do you know what is real world? Why we say it as real world? Is it just a jargon? Yeah. We often say that it's a real world problem.
Actual facts. Actual facts.
No. So world is very vast, right? And you know how many, if you look at your customer size, will have limited, right? Those are for you and similarly, if you are working on one particular domain, on that domain problem, whatever is causing, that is a real world problem for that particular domain. That's fine. Use the domain could be many. Whenever you are working on a particular domain, on that particular domain, whatever problems are there, on that particular problems, specific area that whatever is coming up, those are real. Okay, anyway, people understand requirements based in concrete examples. So always it will be with examples. You can never think that okay, I will get the money, but I will not deduct my account balance. Right? Even we can add here, if you look at this particular part, we have not looked here what is the ATM balance was and when it has been deducted or not. Right? Those are the things will be there, and based upon that there won't be a chance that we will miss out something. There is less scope of assumptions. Right? Example sets for missing requirements. Definitely. Right? So if you look at the BDD framework, have you heard about Cucumber? Okay. Rest others, you are not eating. Okay, talking about the Cucumber framework. Yeah. And if you look at it in .NET, you will find that Cucumber is for Java and Java, right? And in .NET we have lot of one is this framework. Right? So how it works? There will be a text editor where you can write down those feature lines, just like a notepad. Only thing is that keyword will get something like it. We get to know that how it should be aligned and all those things, and we can get by that text editor. Right? And then actual application implementation will be there, which developers are supposed to be done. And before that, what they will do, if all those scenarios will be finalized, they can generate right, which is called as step techniques. So what the glue code does, as the name means, glue means it's trying to play a role of adhesive between feature file and your actual implementation to make sure that you have developed the things right. So that step definitions will get generated, which will actually combine this scenario with your development. And whenever it will get executed, you will come to know that your implementation is not behaving as per your expected behavior. Right? So if you look at, I just put some screenshot of script flow. So this is how it will look like writing scenarios. And this will be the step definitions. Here everywhere it's pending. Why? Because I have not written any code. If I will implement, those things I will follow. Right? And that way, that each scenario will get tied up with my implementation. And I can run and I can execute. I can see that whether it is passing or failing at any point of time. Right? Yes. So what happens? The moment this Cucumber and Scriptflow came into the market, people started grabbing those, using those tools. And there are times where you can use Selenium also with Cucumber and Scriptflow. You know Selenium? Selenium is what? Testing tool, right? Good. But for what? UI automation, right? So what it does, when you are binding your feature with Selenium through Selenium is invoking your UI and it's doing that. started thinking, okay, these BDD is nothing but what? Functional test automation. Right? Already we have the scenario, already we have the Java also. Combined together we can automate our functional. Why do we need this BDD time? Right? That's a misconception, a wrong concept. Right? You can do that. You can hook that to Selenium with a number and you can completely automate your functional test. But those are functional test automation. Yeah.
When is this group code written? When is this written?
Okay, this can be auto-generated.
With the IDs.
From the feature, if you will go back here, you will right click, you can generate. In Java, it will come as a, when you will execute, it will come that those definitions are not generated, you have to copy and you create those lines.
The Gherkin's parser will be there available for many IDs. It will generate based on the keywords.
So here I can write down my code quality, so my service controller level, or I can write Selenium codes to invoke my UI. I am free. Okay, so whoever has used BDD, have you heard about shallow BDD? Have you heard about shallow copy?
Yes.
Rest others also have heard about that. Shallow copy? It's copy. Okay. Shallow BDD automation does not mean you are doing BDD. Just it's similar to that. If you are using unit testing, it does not mean you are using or you have adopted BDD. Does not mean that. Right? You are using an unit, you are using a unit, or you are using on the top mocking framework also. Good, very good. You are not doing BDD. You are not doing writing test case, one test case, executing the failing, then writing code, and making sure that it's fine. So shallow BDD automation does not mean it's BDD. Communication is must. So suppose you are working on a particular technology, right, where framework is not available, BDD framework is not available. It does not mean you can't do BDD. Instead you can go and you can write down in Excel, Notepad, where you find comfortable. You can write down those things. With the same handling language. You can have that discussion with the PAs, your testers, together. And you can have those things extended from this. If you are doing it that way, actually you are doing self-BDD. For DBDD, definitely you need some focus. Right? I have seen a case related to this, that's a case, a different case study. What happened? In one time, there was a particular model. They thought that, and it was from the scratch they were developing the technology. They thought that it will just migrate this time. So what they have done, they thought, let's use BDD. It was new that what was new years back, it was very new. And they thought, okay, let's do the development by our team members and let's outsource the BDD part. Okay. So immediately we got some very big Indian service company, IT service company. They grabbed that opportunity, right? Okay, they grabbed that. They hired some good testers who are good in automation testing, know that Selenium. They taught them, trained them on Spectrum. Here the development is going on and the BDD is going on. Right? Both went hands on hand, finally in product market. Now what happened after that? After that, two things happened. One is maintenance of that entire test suite was a pain. Why? Because in a different environment you were behaving differently because you were and most of the time they were finding that 60 to 40% of that scenarios were failing. Always ready. Another thing was if they are making any UI change, it's increasing 60 to 40 to 90%. Right? The last but not least, they were trying to execute that entire test suite. It was keep running for 3 days. Right? And at the end they will get the 50% failure. Let's take all that team in the field. They stop looking at that. Right? So after that, I was also part of another team's coaching activity there. And it's the calculate waste. It does not matter whether it's going to add waste or it's going to add values. Then we had lots of discussion and strategy level whether we should go or not. Why we should not go for that? It's not UI testing, it's not functional testing, and finally they agreed upon. And then it was much better. So that also has been done. And we have done a particular case in comparing both. So that's lots of time you will find the challenge in two ways. One is it will be think that let's automate. Why we can automate at a UI level? Why not do at that level? So again, it's not behavior driven development. Why? Because you have written these scenarios. You have still get this one after. You have not written anything that's actually making it as change. You have to write down that much. Then you have to go back to the development. There you can again apply the TDD. You can write the test case, failing test case, write the code, make sure that test case is failed fast. Then again here also has to be fast. You have to go into circles. Right? And that way if you go with the UI, once your development is completed, then only you can actually make it as possible into the UI. Right? So some best practices, as I told you, that even though the technology does not support, go with the scalability. One is avoid UI driven scenarios. If you are writing, even I am in visualization page and I feel in this, starting this, hitting this, and so on. Okay. Something is wrong. Because if in future if you have to add one more element, then you have to change this scenario. And not only this scenario, there are multiple scenarios also. So better you can just write here, given I am registered. Right? And I have filled my basic information. There are lots of challenging scenarios also where we have, suppose, empty columns. How you will make that scenario readable. There are lots of ways we can discuss those things later. But yes, of course, those are also can be.
Vinay, quick thing. We're running out of time.
Yeah.
We can also do a part 2 on best practices next time.
Okay, fine. Okay, so I will just cover this one. So I was treating the same thing. ADD is of functional testing. Actually, it's not. Right? Just remember this. Cucumber or step flow is BDD? No, not at all. Right? BDD is the process of functional testing. That is also not. Just a communication and collaboration between three entities: PS, developers, and testers.
BDD is BDD as well.
Why not? You can do that.
Following BDD, that means we are following BDD as well.
No. BDD is separate. BDD is separate.
Most of the things like testing and refactoring, we are doing in BDD as well.
Okay, I will tell you one thing. But then you have to understand what is behavior, verifying behavior and your doing unit testing. Both could be. So we can discuss.
We'll take it in the open house, right? Anybody else who has questions, we'll take it in the open house. All right? Thank you, Vinay. It was great.